guest. This is Clay Lambert. Clay is a candidate in the Precinct 1 race for the County Commissioner, Kerr County, Texas, 2016. And that's early voting is going to start when?
Tuesday the 16th.
Tuesday the 16th. So early voting will be starting this coming week. And so you need to get out there and you need to vote. I think the general election will be March 1st.
March the 1st, that's correct.
Okay, so if you don't get the early voting in, you can't vote on March 1st. And so we have several candidates in the Commissioner's Court, Precinct 1, Kerr County this time around. And I believe this is going to replace Buster Baldwin. Buster's retiring. And we have you, Clay Lambert, and I think 4 other candidates. So what do you think distinguishes you different, or how are you different from the other 4?
Well, I think there's 3 or 4 different ways that are worth speaking to. First of all, I know a lot of the individuals that are running here have been in this area for a long time, and so they know it very well. There's also the issue with the forest and the trees. Sometimes when a person is in the same location, in the same environment for an extended period of time, they become acclimated to it. And there's some things that may arise that they could do to change the situation for the better that they don't think about. To the contrary, I've been pretty much all over the world working in my career, a number of places in the United States, Canada, was over in Europe for a while, and spent 23 years in Saudi Arabia. So I've been involved in a lot of different environments, a lot of different locales, different makeups of ethnicities, and in the midst of that, I had to deal with a lot of conflict resolution, and that was very important because I think right now what we're seeing in Kerr County and what we've seen for some time is some ongoing conflict between the city and the county, and I believe that I could bring my skill sets to that and do a very good job of trying to mediate, resolve that, and get back to a normal that we'd all like to see.
Okay. And so what do you see as are there any problems in Kerr County government right now? And if they are, what do you plan to do to resolve those problems?
Well, I think it's important to note that we're very fortunate in Kerr County. Our road system is far superior to some of the adjacent counties, certainly better than a lot of other states. We have a lot of good things to be proud of. But that doesn't mean that there's not room for improvement. We need to fix the library situation, which is one of those interlocal agreements that was never agreed upon between the city and the county. And in looking at that, I've looked at the actual library contract or proposal that was presented to the county. I think for the most part it was reasonable, and the unintended consequences of not providing library cards to the county folks, by the county not paying their share of the library, has left those lesser income families with children in the county in a very hard predicament. Some of them have to choose whether to pay the $65 for library book checkout and internet use, or use that for other things that are needed in their household every month. And statistics have shown that children that don't have access to books, don't have good literacy skills up through the 3rd grade, will suffer with that the rest of their lives. And that can fold back on the county. Now we have those individuals with lesser jobs and lesser skill sets. So it's a hole in the dike that needs to be plugged very quickly.
Well, doesn't the school system have libraries?
They do have some, but they don't have the extent of what the public library here offers. One of the things that they have with their internet connection is the availability for students to go online and get tutoring with virtually any course, 1st grade through high school. So if you're having a problem with algebra, they can go in there and get free online, immediate, at once, real-time tutoring. They can't get that at school.
Okay. What do you propose that the Kerr County do with that agreement or proposed agreement with Kerrville?
Well, first of all, to institute that, I would suggest that we put together a team of individuals from the city maybe council members, maybe a special ad hoc team they put together. Well, ad hoc's not right. It would be a permanent team. For the purpose of working with selected members from the county, mandated as their goal to go in and take care once and for all of these interlocal agreements and service agreements for shared services, to put it to bed. And one of those items would be the library. There's a number of ways that it can be done, and it gets a little bit complicated because of the accreditation process. The city is concerned that if the county is not brought back in a certain way, that they may lose accreditation for the library. But there's several ways. First of all, we could just look at what we have now and start paying that 50-50. Last time I looked, the annual expenses for the library were somewhere between $750,000 to $800,000 a year. Those were quite a lot higher than that at one point in time. But we do that. The other way is, back before this dispute took place, the amount of library cards between the city and the county were pretty much 50-50. It's like 47%, 48%, with the rest of those being belonging to people in outlying counties. Well, now we're down to about 5.7% of the cards are the only ones that are held by people in the county, the ones that they've paid for.
You mean outside the city?
I'm sorry, yes, outside the city. We're all in the county. And so if we open up the doors to letting people that are only in the county come back into the library at no charge, it's not going to be an overnight thing. They're going to trickle in, and maybe on an annual basis, the county needs to start paying their fair share based on the number of people that actually utilize the library. I'm not promoting either one of those schemes at this time. There may be a third or fourth way that we could do that, but that would all be a part of the negotiation to figure out the most appropriate and acceptable way to move forward.
Okay. Of course, the library is important, but it's not the biggest problem I think we face here in the county. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay. Let's talk about, let's expand politics just a little bit. Would you agree with me that basically the United States is broke?
Oh, we're beyond broke.
Okay.
and it's a pathetic situation.
Pathetic situation. And obviously the market's broke too. I mean, the commerce and market and the economy in this country is broke. And all that trickles down to the local guy. That's me and you, right?
Right.
So what is the county, as a representative of the people for the county, what's your vision for what we would do if the chickens do come home to roost, and we start seeing the economic effects of what we know is out there nationally?
Well, I assume what you're asking is if the economy even starts to further accelerate its downward cycle.
Right.
And we have to deal with that. Ooh, that's a tough question. There may be some local businesses that would suffer significantly more than others in such a downturn. I'm not sure exactly what the county could do to prop that up, or if it would be appropriate that they do. You've got me on that one, Doyle. I'd have to really give that some heavy thought.
Yeah, well, and that's, to me, that's, I know that's, I didn't mean to lowball you with a question like that, but here's the way I look at it. We got this national government, and we got a state government, and then we have county governments. All those governments are instituted by representatives or people who vote, or elected. So we elect people into those offices, and those are representative forms of government. City of Kerrville is not it's not an entity, I guess, made up by the legislature, enacted by the legislature, approved. I mean, in other words, they didn't enact it.
Right.
And so they're just nonprofit corporations basically that are chartered, allowed to be chartered by the legislature, but they're not created by the legislature. Mm-hmm. So in effect, you are the local government. The county commissioners are the local government. And I think people don't understand sometimes that even though you live in the city of Kerrville, you really live in the County. You live in Kerr County.
Right.
And so the Kerr County Commissioners actually represent everybody, including the people who live in the city of Kerrville.
That's true. Not only is there a general misunderstanding of that, I've heard it spoken of, people saying that we don't like the fact that we're being double taxed or being taxed from the county and from the city. And in reality, that's not the case. The county taxes go for specific services that everyone in the county gets, and the city taxes go for specific services that for the most part only the city citizens get. But I think one of the important things here is we all need to learn that everyone here, regardless of some paperwork border that says you're within a city limit, we all live in Kerr County, and we're all in this same geographical footprint on the earth, and we need to work and play together and structure those two government entities so that it's for the good of all.
Would you agree with me that the county commissioners are really more representative of the actual citizens and taxpayers in Kerr County than the city, the city hall?
For the most part, that's true. The city government is interesting in the fact that you have an elected mayor and 4 elected councilmen, none of which are paid much, although they have certain powers. But actually, it's the city manager and his staff under him, the various departments, that does the iron share of the work and follows the others. Now, I would say that there's a lot more involvement between citizens, or could be a lot more influence with citizens with the county commissioners on the county side than what I've seen in the past with city residents with the city council. I'm not sure why that is, but
well, the commissioners court, who are elected by the people, and not, I'm not saying that the council members and the mayor aren't, but the commissioners are paid a salary, and basically the city hall, other than the elected members of city hall, including the mayor and the council, aren't. I think they get some little striping, but it's not much.
Correct.
And so the actual paid representatives are the commissioners court. That's where the political power should be. Do you agree with that?
I do. And of course, as a branch off the side of that, Rusty, our sheriff, is an elected position, and he answers to the people.
Right. He
doesn't answer to the commissioners court. And that's the beauty of county government, is so many of those elected officials are responsible to the people, their constituents. They're not responsible on a hierarchical structure as you would have in some corporation where people were concerned about the way they looked and wanted to climb the corporate ladder and this, that, and the other. Those positions are all, for the most part, independent. They have responsibilities that can't be ignored, but they answer to the public.
And would it be your position as a commissioner that you represent all the people of Kerr County, including the people who live in the city of Kerrville?
Oh, absolutely.
And would it be your position that you would give them and really the commissioners court, including the county judge who leads the commissioners court, has a responsibility of political leadership in the county? Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that, by the way, is a very intense job.
Yes, it is.
I've spent a number of months now since I started this campaign, trying to immerse myself a lot more into the government actions. And I found that there's a number of positions out there that had entirely more responsibility and more activity ongoing on a day-to-day basis than I ever imagined. And that is the case, certainly, with the county judge.
Do you think there's anything that in Kerr County that the government's not doing that it should be doing, or that it could do?
Both internally and in their own organization and outside?
I'm talking about a general political leadership position. In other words, I realize that the county commissioners don't have the authority and power to do the kinds of things that the city does, passing ordinances and those kinds of things. They don't have that they don't have that minute control over things. which is interesting, I think, since they do actually represent the people in a more personal way, I think. But do you think there's anything out there that the county could or should be doing to push that idea forward, that we're the political leaders in this county?
Well, I think the first thing that could be done that would assist, from what I've seen in the last 4 or 5 months, is to actually better educate the public on exactly what it is that county government does and where their tax dollars are going, because there seems to be a number of citizens that are not up to speed with that.
Yeah, I just kind of get this general feeling that people think that the county government is all they're doing is they're governing the the rural areas out there. They're all about goat farms and pastures and things like that, and sort of unsophisticated or something. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. But actually, the county government is the government of the people for the local area.
That's true. In the courthouse, all the records are maintained by the county. And that's whether it's marriage licenses, deeds, whatever the case may be. All of those records are held there. Now they're being even scanned and put into electronic form to be made available over the internet. They have to take care of all the taxes, distribute that, take care of elections. There's just a tremendous amount of work that goes on there. It's not just pick up my rabid raccoon and look at my agricultural opportunities. There's a lot more to it than that.
Is there anything else the county can do?
I think beyond the education, personally, I look at the demographics of Kerr County, and we've got a very unusual situation in the fact that they're inverted. We don't have a lot of industrial base here, not a business base that pays the lion's share of the taxes. In Kerr County, it's the private homeowner that pays the lion's share of the taxes, unlike a larger city. And so that, of course, raises property taxes and that sort of thing. I think that we could probably find a way to enhance our economic development.
Well, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. Because do you think, because you just said that it's inverted, we really don't have an economic base or a commercial base of any kind to pick up the tax load. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Right.
And so, is that the fault of Kerrville? The city? Does the city fail?
I wouldn't say the city failed. This has become a retirement mecca, and as it has grown and built more medical capabilities to cater to the retirement community, there's been more retirement folks come in here. If I remember right, sometime maybe 2010, 11 or 12, maybe 2010, that Forbes magazine listed Kerrville as one of their top 10 retirement areas in the United States. Recently, in a number of programs that I've been in, I've seen a number of people moving in from Illinois, from California, from a number of different states, because they've researched it and they've found that this is a good area to be. So you bring in people that have frozen taxes and have certain wants and needs.
And a limited lifespan.
That's correct.
Okay, is that an economic plan?
No, that's not an economic plan. That's an economic happening.
Right. Okay. So, do you think this should be the position of the county government to basically take the bull by the horns and do something other than sit around and wait for people to, replace and expect people to come in and replace the people who are dying off who are paying the taxes?
There's some things that we cannot change in life, but there's some ways that we can make positive change. I was involved with a city in Alabama that had a negative declining population. Once upon a time, they had a lot of auto industry there. They unionized, their prices went crazy, and the industry failed in that area. They're starting to have a revival, but the city there decided to work hand in hand for the mutual benefit with the local college, and they worked with the county government that had certain tax incentives, and they had a light industrial park where they could bring companies in to try manufacturing in that area. It all boiled down to the fact that the companies that refused to move their manufacturing facilities or whatever there were doing that predominantly because there was not a workforce there that was appropriate to their needs. So after several years of interviews, they came up with the type of skill sets that the population would need to be able to attract those industries. And they worked hand in hand with the local college to develop courses that would teach people those skills. It's not a thing you can do overnight, but over several years they were able to ramp that up. And now they're turning out people with degrees in robotics and other new age technologies that was exactly what these manufacturing companies wanted. So they provided an environment that's conducive for the companies to move in. I think with some really innovative thought and by looking at best practices with other counties, maybe even other states that have done some innovative things like that, we could bring those to play in Kerr County.
Do you have any examples, or do you know of any other counties that have engaged in some kind of a real aggressive economic development plan?
I have not researched that recently. My involvement with the situation that I was speaking to you about was in 2009.
Okay. But you wouldn't be opposed to the local county government taking a little bit more interest in economic development?
No, I think it's a very important thing to do. I think that county government should be proactive. And when I say that, rather than just reacting to the day-to-day needs, when things pop up, subdivision changes, this, that, and the other, I think we need to be looking at least 5 to 10 years forward. What is the population predicted to do? What is our water situation? What industries are growing? What new industries are coming up? What do we have here to attract people? And what age group could we attract? And what age group does that fit into within a workforce? Be smart and look at that and strategize to bring that in.
Sometimes I think maybe even the people don't understand that you live in Kerr County even though you live in Kerrville, but sometimes I wonder if the county government doesn't actually fall in that trap sometimes, thinking that they're really only there to service the people outside the city because the city's going to take care of everybody else inside the city. And if you get into that mental thought, then you're not thinking about economic development, because any economic development you do is probably going to benefit the city of Kerrville more than it benefits outside the city of Kerrville. You know what I'm saying? It's going to bring commerce in, but those people who benefit from that are county people. They pay taxes. They're entitled to that kind of effort from the county government, just like from the city. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. It's going to benefit us both.
Right.
From a county standpoint, you know, there's a number of concerns, manufacturing concerns, whatever, that are not going to be located in the city. It wouldn't even be zoned for them.
That's true.
And so that's going to assist with county taxes. Pardon me. Those individuals that work there, I imagine a large percentage of them would be city residents. And that's, again, what I say, we're on the same geographic footprint on this earth, and we need to work together for mutual benefit.
Right.
Not to have people that determine that they're a part of a given fiefdom and that they need to protect their interest, and it's just protecting their egos more than anything else.
So if you were elected to the Commissioner's Court, could we expect that you'd at least explore some kind of, I don't know, some kind of structure, some ongoing development that would look into to the fact that we need to do economic development a little bit more aggressively than the county currently does?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we need to look at it and see what kind of construct we can put into place to make that happen.
Right. It's sort of like the city has, I guess, an economic development board or whatever they call that, and I think it's related to economic available to the county? Does the county get any sales tax at all?
The county doesn't. No, those sales taxes that the city collects go to certain pockets, but the county does benefit from the monies that go into the Economic Development Corporation, that sort of thing.
I'm just kind of like just a citizen exploring ideas about, because I think we need something. Somebody needs to do something. This is not working, and if everything goes south in the economy, then we're all going to suffer. And I think we need to be on top of our game. Just wondering, but if you thought about that, and if that's something that would be on your agenda if you were elected to county commissioner.
It definitely would be, and I want to make it clear to listeners too that I'm not making a statement about those individuals that work in those economic development organizations and their abilities. It's just that in my impression, what has been done in the past few years has not been as beneficial as I think it could have been, and maybe we just need to take the same players and alter the plan so that we can be more successful in that.
Yeah, but it takes effort. It takes somebody wanting to do something before anything can get done.
It takes a driven initiative that is supported.
That's right.
And I would put that initiative in place.
Well, what would you like to tell the viewers about yourself that you think is important that we hadn't already covered in this interview?
Well, going back to your first and earlier question about the differentiating factors about myself and the other candidates, I think one thing that's important when looking at several of them is I do not have any full-time business interest that would draw me away from being a full-time, totally dedicated commissioner. Some of the other candidates do. I have the vitality and the energy and the interest and the intellect to get out there and just do the best I can for the county. I thrive on that type of work. I love seeing good things come about. I love bringing things into fruition that weren't there before. And I really look forward to doing that. Also, over my career, I've been fortunate enough, and it's just something that came naturally to me, but I've been fortunate enough to tell people that I'm a good listener. And whereas many may jump off and not have the emotional intelligence to sit and listen and think before they react, I think I have a temperament and abilities in those areas that are somewhat unique, at least unique within the spectrum of candidates that we have right now. I do not have, although I've been here in Kerrville many years and came back and forth during my 23-year assignment in Saudi Arabia, I don't have any deeply ingrained long-term relationships with any organizations or people where I might, under human tendencies, be caused to have a bias towards one group or one individual. So if I can come in with the skill sets that are right for the time and the job, if I can come in with the energy, the ability, and the know-how and the drive to listen to people and make good things happen, and if I don't have any biases or encumbrances and can do that on a full-time basis, I think that's a nice combination that the people should appreciate.
Okay. Earlier we brought up the subject of national politics, so let's talk about it real quick again. You're a conservative.
I've been a Republican all my life.
Right, and you're not a rhino, right?
No, no, far from that.
Okay, so.
But I'm not radical on the far right either.
Okay, well, you're a good conservative, physical conservative, and
Right.
That's what counts in local government. That's what's important to people. We all recognize, and I think all citizens recognize, that we have to, the government's going to cost, always has and always will. The question is, how much is it going to cost, and will I get every dollar that I spend in tax money, will I get a benefit from that? Mm-hmm. Are you going to pledge to the people that's what you're going to do? The physical conservative, you're going to watch out for their money?
Absolutely. I believe that any proposed programs that cannot support themselves, unless there's some very unusual way that we can show that they're going to support something else, so that we will get benefit from that. I just don't believe in them. Our government right now, we support so much. We underwrite and subsidize ethanol and, you know, don't grow this crop, don't raise this animal, we'll pay you for this, we'll pay you for that. Things that can't exist in the long run on their own don't deserve to exist. And when they die off, I think you'll find historically there'll always be something else that appears that's even better than what you had before that can sustain itself. So I'm only for sustainable programs here.
Okay. Of course, we don't, in the county, it doesn't have a lot of authority legislatively to enact a lot of different kinds of restrictive ordinances. But how would you stand on anything like that? Are you kind of like open society as far as private enterprise goes? Let people do what they want to do, as long as it's not illegal or, you know, it's a nuisance or something like that. What's your stand on that?
I think that's where we are right now, and that's probably what our forefathers expected when they started to put this government together. There seems to be more and more people these days that will take advantage of that situation. I have a unique situation where I live. They're not far from there. I see areas where there are abandoned trailers and other things that are unsightly, and they're in the proximity of nicer homes. And I'm sure that that may affect property values. It certainly affects people's attitudes when they drive past them. And I wish the county had some reasonable means of controlling that. I've asked, and at this time they don't, but it would be worth looking into. But basically, I support a government that does not overreach.
Okay. All right, is there any other items that you think you want to address while we still got a few minutes here?
Well, I do want to say that in the time that I've spent with the current commissioners and a number of other organizations and all here, I've been impressed with a lot of things. And I know right now I'm a huge supporter of water rights and also of our ability to make sure that we look forward, you know, once again being proactive to make sure that we have the water that we're going to need in the future. And UGRA, thank goodness, is already working with Martin Marietta with an engineering study to see if it would be feasible to take over some of their quarry areas in Center Point when they abandon those and use them for water retention ponds. You know, the county does have a role in water. The county has a permit good for 6,000 acre-feet of water. And when it's available, if we had a place to get it, we could put it. And that's going to become more and more important as our population grows, which we can't totally control, and we have to have the water that they need.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I really thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in to Hill Country Lawyer. This has been Clay Lambert. He's the one of the candidates in Precinct 1 County Commissioner's race in Kerr County, Texas. And be sure to show up to vote next week in early voting. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.